Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 20th regular meeting of Nanaimo City Council. Recognize we are all gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation tonight. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have Councillor Brown is not with us tonight. He is away. And Councillor Gesselbrock, I think, is going to be joining us electronically shortly. He very courteously stayed away tonight because he's sick. And in January flu season, we all appreciate that. Tonight's regular meeting. Tonight's regular meeting of council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet, on the question period sign-up sheet, which is on the table to the double doors on my left. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw has been updated, so questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. In light of what Councillor Manley has observed, and all of us observed tonight, when we have a number of people who aren't normally in attendance at council meetings, I read out a long direction about not clapping, cheering, or jeering, or otherwise showing emotion. This looks like a pretty civilized and sophisticated crowd tonight, so I'm not going to do that, trusting you'll all be on your best behavior, notwithstanding we're here for a much more exciting and pleasant council evening than is normally the case. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items, Ms. Gurry. We have a couple.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. For late items this evening, we have agenda item 13B, Zoning Amendment Bylaw, number 2024-4500.233 as an addition, as well as agenda item 13C, we're adding fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024 number 7336.13, and that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Eastmere, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Mayor's report. I have a number of items to read tonight. I will try and be quick. We're suggesting, obviously, that if you can and you're interested, please access the city account information by registering for My City. Online, convenient, and eco-friendly alternative for tax, user rate, and license mailouts. Access to city account information is only a click away. Residents can register for the My City online account to gain access 24/7 to current and past bills, account balances, and payment history. Change your bill delivery method, property assessments and tax levies, homeowner grants claimed, and water consumption. Through the My City interface, residents can also view business licenses and more with one personalized login and account. There's also the option to receive electronic bills through email. The city happily announced in December that we have opened a new year-round drop-in hub that offers shelter, support, and safety. In partnership with community agencies, the city is funding a year-round daytime drop-in hub that will also provide warming and cooling services for individuals living unsheltered. Island Crisis Care Society will operate the new drop-in hub in partnership with the Nanaimo Family Life Association. It will provide a welcoming, safe space offering essential services, connections to community resources, and a refuge from the extreme weather conditions. It will operate 7 days a week, 7 hours a day, year-round. The drop-in hub will ensure consistent and accessible space for individuals in need. And I can tell you that it has already seen a very active use, including filling all the beds that are available every night. Many of you who have lived in Nanaimo for a while will remember Marie Davidson, a woman who worked very hard to care for foster children throughout her active life and was so recognized for her incredible work with BMX community in this town that the BMX track was opened in her name. It's been recently refurbished. It's a 4,000 square meter track. A new surface for BMX. It's open for casual day use. It replaces the Marie Davidson BMX track, which was only 2,800 square meters. And together with the Steve Smith Bike Park, including the pump track and mountain bike skills park, further establishes Nanaimo and Bevan Park as an exciting cycling destination. The new jumps, bumps, and berms, banked corners, were shaped and constructed by Olympic BMX track builder Tom Ritz designed to create a fun, fast, and competitive BMX racing experience. Now, looking at this audience, it doesn't look like too many of you will be engaging in that, but there are some young people here, and so it's a very good news story. Avoid the voids. Detours in place as the cavities below Bastion Street are filled. As many of you know, the history of this community were underlain with long unworked coal mines. Beginning on January 2nd, 2025, the Bastion Commercial Street intersection will be closed to vehicular traffic as drilling and grouting work takes place to fill subsurface voids within the Design Commercial Phase 1 project area. The road closure will be in place until probably late February. Investigative drilling conducted as part of the Design Commercial project revealed voids which need to be remediated for the safety of the work crews, to protect underground utilities, and to minimize the potential for future depressions forming in the roadway. While the intersection will be closed to vehicular traffic, pedestrian access will be maintained at all times, businesses remain open as usual, and free 2-hour parking is in place along the rest of Commercial Street, as well as on levels 2 and 3 of the Bastion Street Parkade. Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and beyond. The City of Nanaimo is inviting all of you to experience Luminous Paths, a celebration of light, art, and community. Beginning on January 22nd from 5 to 9 p.m. at Maffeo Sutton Park for the opening of Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and beyond. This free month-long winter art festival is a celebration of light, art, land, and community. Temporary light-based arts installations will illuminate and transform the park's public space into something new, an interactive experience that ignites imagination, inspiring hope and excitement for the future of our community. Wednesday, January the 22nd, by the way, will mark the official 150th anniversary of the first City Council meeting after the city was incorporated. The Luminous Paths event will feature food trucks, children's crafts, interactive community booths, live music, dance, and light performances, illuminated by art installations on display in identified public spaces, encouraging visitors to explore the park and community spaces. Artist features will include Bailey Macabre, David Martinello, Jenny Smith, Mauro Dalla Costa, and Monkey C. Interactive. The art installations will remain on display in Maffeo Sutton Park until the closing event on February the 17th, a family day, from 4 to 8 p.m. at Maffeo Sutton Park. I have to ask, and I hate to do this, but there has been vandalism at the Colliery Dam Parks that puts the public at risk, and so we're asking citizens to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity after the safety booms at the Lower Dam and Colliery Dam Park were vandalized for the second time in less than a month. If you have information about these incidents or witness suspicious activity, please contact the Nanaimo RCMP non-emergency line at 250-754-2345. And finally, on a very happy note, for those of you who have been subject to the construction on Bowen and Boxwood and Bevan, the Midtown Gateway project has reached another milestone as the City of Nanaimo gets ready to flip the switch and activate the traffic signals at the new Bowen Road, Boxwood Road, Bevan Parkway intersection. On Wednesday, January 15th, the traffic signal lights started flashing to alert drivers along Bowen Road that the new intersection will soon be actively traffic controlled. On Wednesday, January the 22nd, the traffic lights or crosswalks and intersection will be officially opened, and the new Bevan Parkway, South Bevan Park entrance, and Boxwood Road connector will be accessible to pedestrian, cycling, and vehicular traffic. Council will happily be attending the grand opening. These changes improve access to Bevan Park and Nanaimo's transportation network with increased options, safety, and comfort for people who walk, bike, take transit, or drive, while improving the safe flow of commercial and industrial goods. That's the Mayor's report. On subject of rising and reporting, Ms. Gurry, we have the terms of reference that were expanded, membership from 8 to 10 for members at large to the Nanaimo Performing Arts Guild, effective December 16th, 2024, for 2-year terms ending December 16th, 2026, with the possibility to renew membership for 1 additional 2-year term. I'm happy to announce the names of people whose names will be familiar to many of you. Arlene Blundell, Holly Bright, Bonnie Catterson, Jason Friesen, Jackie Casey, Samantha Letourneau, Sarah McLeod, Bill Milner, Gregory Siegel, and Wendy Weirn. And I do want to announce, of course, that Councillor Manley's spouse, he absented himself from the selection of that process. We wouldn't want anyone to think Samantha Letourneau was getting a break from the city. And now we're on to the best part of the evening and a very happy occasion. Some of you may have noticed I'm wearing the chain of office. Don't often do that, but it's kind of nice to put the old bling on once in a while. Tonight we are gathered here in rather extraordinary numbers for a council meeting for the Freedom of City Award to John Rattan. It's the highest honor the City Council can award an individual, organization, or military unit to recognize their exceptional service or contributions to our community. It was adopted by the Nanaimo City Council in 1940. For those of you who know the math, that is 85 years ago. It's a very timely honor, as the city of Nanaimo was incorporated as a city on December 24th, 1874, and we are celebrating, as I pointed out, 150 years. As I also indicated, the first mayor and council were elected on this very same day, January 20th, 1875, and the first meeting was held 2 days later, 1875, for one-year terms. I can assure you that the city staff in those days were much smaller, and the councillors only got a one-year term, as did the mayor. Things have changed somewhat. So let me give you some fun facts. We are the 119th council for the city of Nanaimo. I'm the 26th mayor. John Rattan was the 24th mayor. Bill McKay's with us tonight. He was the 25th mayor. John is the 7th former mayor to receive the freedom of the city. And I'm going through history: Mayor John Barsby, Mayor Victor Harrison, Mayor George Muir, Mayor Earl Westwood, Mayor Pete Maffeo, and Mayor Frank Ney. John is the 34th recipient. In all the time that this has been available in the city, only 34 groups, individuals, have received this honor. We're also pleased tonight to have two previous recipients of the Freedom of the City Awards with us. Former city councillors Diana Johnston and Diane Brennan are both with us tonight. I'm very tempted just to read the script and say we thank former mayors, councillors, friends, and family who are watching here tonight in support of John, and those who may be watching from home. But being a big mouth, I can't resist pointing out that we have a number of former councillors here, and if I miss any of you, you're going to wave your hands. Starting over on my left, I'm looking, and I think Ted Greaves is here. Yeah, go ahead. We'll breach the rules tonight. Ted Greaves is here. Obviously, Diana Johnson and Diane Brennan are here as well. Merv Unger is here. And Jim Kipp, modestly hiding in the background. He's trying to obscure himself next to Mike Gogo, which is pretty much impossible in this town. I want to recognize the presence of former Councillor George Anderson, who is now the MLA for Nanaimo-Lantzville, moved up to a better job, gets a pension. And Fred Patchy, who's down in the front row, sitting next to John's brother-in-law and John Rattan's marvelous sister, very tolerant, still loving, and here to honor her brother tonight. Have I missed any councillors? I don't think so. But, you know, I could literally, and I want to say this now during my remarks, I could literally name a whole pile of you. And what your presence tonight says about this city is that it's a wonderful place to live. It's filled with very good people who care and people who respect and honor those amongst us who have given much more than they ordinarily could or even should in some respects. And so it's perfectly appropriate to have all of you here tonight to honor our friend John Rattan. He was born in Anchorage, Alaska. His father, Charles, co-founded Alaska Star Airlines, which later became Alaska Airlines. At the young age, the family moved to Victoria, where he grew up, and also became a Canadian citizen. He married his wife, Diane, in 1965, and they've had 59 years of marriage, for those of you who can do the math. Two children, Lisa and Ryan, who are married to Mark and Maisie, and most importantly, as any parent or parent of grandchildren knows, the most important thing in life, 4 grandchildren, Aaron, Brianna, Abel, and Oli. He came to Nanaimo when he was appointed branch manager of TransCanada Credit Corporation. Now, John's an interesting dude, so what else would he do but help co-found Seafund Divers with his friend Dr. Mel Peterman? He's a guy who likes being under the water. I don't understand it myself. I get drowned in emails and it's not pleasant at all. In 1980, John launched Nanaimo Travel and Cruise Agency. Former staffer with us tonight. That tells you something about his qualities as an employer. I want to provide an overview, however, of the details of John's exemplary service, outstanding contributions, exceptional achievements, and his long-standing committee to this city through both community service, business, commerce, and politics that has been integral to the growth and enrichment for the citizens of Nanaimo, stemming some 61 years. 53 years with the Loyal Nanaimo Bathtub Society, 1984 to 1991, Commodore and Chair. 1995, he was appointed to the Nanaimo Harbor Commission, now known as the Nanaimo Port Authority. He served 6 years as chair of the Nanaimo Port Authority. 8 terms with Tourism Nanaimo, 4 years as president. Member of the Nanaimo Conference Center Committee. Member of the Nanaimo Parking Commission Downtown Development Committee. Government appointee to the British Columbia Travel Advisory Board. Member of the Nanaimo Downtown Rotary Club. Member of the Nanaimo North Rotary Club. Member of City of Nanaimo Imagine Nanaimo Committee. I've still got the sweatshirt. Anybody here have the sweatshirt from Imagine Nanaimo days? Obviously you're not a hoarder like me. He was a vice president of the Nanaimo JC Club, chair of Equal Voice, Central Vancouver Island Chapter, chairman, support for the YCD, the Nanaimo Airport Expansion Committee project, member and pilot of the Nanaimo Flying Club, director Nanaimo and District Museum Society, chair of the Community Policing Advisory Board, member and past director of the Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce, chair of the Nanaimo Hospitality Association, member and past director of the Nanaimo City Centre Association, 2008 recipient of the Sterling Community Award for Citizen of the Year by the given by the Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce. And I can say this, he was held in such high esteem that he was elected not to City Council, right into the mayor's chair in 2008 and served as mayor for 2 terms from 2008 to 2014. When someone is nominated, obviously they tell you a little bit about why. And if you'll bear with me, I want to read some of the quotes. John was a tireless advocate, an esteemed leader, an unwavering ambassador for the city of Nanaimo. He is someone who truly loves Nanaimo. He always chose to walk the high road and has been a steady and reliable force in our community, demonstrating that effective leadership is built on trust and moral principles. A devoted public servant, worked tirelessly towards creating a thriving and inclusive urban environment. Whether it was a local fundraising event, chamber function, or nonprofit, he was always there. He showed up as a leader and supporter. He has a profound commitment to the welfare and an unwavering commitment to the betterment of Nanaimo. Always enthusiastic, positive supporter of Nanaimo and its potential. His leadership and achievement enhanced the livability of the city and services as an inspiration for current and future leaders. Passionate about the city of Nanaimo. His key approach to leadership was bringing a collaborative and respectful approach to building community partnerships. Dedicated, patient, and always showed empathy to those who expressed differing opinions. Now, before I say a few words about John, I was remiss by not also recognizing, because we're all getting older and I'm entitled to forget things, the presence of former Member of Parliament Ted Miller, who's with us tonight as well. John and him were both making jokes about aging earlier. I just want to say that I've known John for a while. Anybody who has worked and lived near downtown Nanaimo over the last few decades does know who John Rattan is. He is, well, I guess I could describe him as Mr. Downtown, a familiar face, a friendly face, a welcoming face, has probably punted a number of you around the world in various travels through his travel agency. I see some nodding heads in the audience. And just the kind of guy you always wanted to run into. He was decent and friendly and kind and caring. He loved this city. He gave enormous amounts of time to it in a myriad of ways. You just heard me run through not just the nice things that were said about him, but the number of organizations. I'm surprised that his wife apparently still loves him and his kids will speak to him. I can't imagine he was ever home. But he wouldn't have been able to do it without their support either, and I think we all recognize that when you give that much to your community, it is your family that makes great sacrifice too, and so I want to express to his family tonight, to Diane and his children, his grandchildren, their spouses, our thanks as citizens of Nanaimo for enabling him to do as much as he did, which is a remarkable history of community service and commitment. And you know, let's be blunt about this. He's not 39 anymore. The guy looks fabulous. He still goes to the gym, for heaven's sakes. That's what living the good life does for you. It gives you a wonderful longevity. So John, I just want to offer my strong personal congratulations. I had such respect for the guy that when I was MLA, I figured out very early on he took his coffee black, and at all those myriad of events and banquets, I insisted on bringing him his coffee because I figured it was a small token of respect, and after all, I didn't have to pay for it either. I'm going to ask each member of council to say a few words, and we're going to start with the longest serving member of our current Councillor Thorpe.
Oh, thank you very much, Your Worship. And of course, I'm very pleased to say very briefly a few words to John, who I feel I should be referring to as Mr. Rattan, if not former Mayor Rattan. I am just so pleased, John, that you are receiving this award tonight, because I really, quite honestly, cannot think of anybody who deserves it more than you do. Both for your many contributions to our city, which we've just heard a remarkable list, but as much as that, for the type of person which I know you are. And I have known you now for many years, and I will tell you this quite truthfully, I've always looked up to you as a role model. And I keep you in the back of my mind when I go to events. And I have heard the expression, and I know other councillors have heard it, that in an organization, the tone comes from the top. And I think as mayor of our city and a representative of our city, you always set that positive tone, professional appearance, dignity, and class. You have class, and you have always been a true gentleman, and I really appreciate that. You have my total respect, John, so thank you so much for serving Nanaimo so well, and congratulations, well deserved. Thank you.
Councillor Armstrong, the next longest serving member of council.
I actually don't have a lot to say, which is hard to believe, but I always really, there, see his face. I always enjoyed working with you, John. I first met you when I came back to Nanaimo Policing, and the work that you and your council did. I remember sitting with Merv and Jim Kipp and the great work they did for Safer Nanaimo and all the work they put in to get our city started getting on a good path, especially when we started facing the homelessness issues, et cetera, back then. And I also remember all the work you did for the Scottish Highland Dances and the Dragoons and stuff. You were always there volunteering, being their spokesperson and being their MC, and bathtub days, walking with you in the parade. It's been awesome. So thank you very much for your work, and I know you'll continue to still volunteer in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Himmons.
John, I want to say two things to you. We met officially in 2018 when I was running for council, and I was meeting a myriad of ex-political folks. And one of the things that really was the forefront of those conversations is what those people had done. People love to talk about the accomplishments that they made, or the contributions, etc. How you were different was that you just exuded a love for the city. You didn't talk to me about the things that you did when you were mayor. You didn't brag. You didn't relive the glory days. You just talked about how brilliant our city is and how worthy it is of our efforts. The second piece is that on a personal level, you've always taken the time to check in with me, and you did this just outside in the reception. You look me in the eyes and you say, "How are you, Erin?" And that's gold. This is an interesting job that we do here at this table, and I think we need to support each other, and I've always felt very well supported by you. So thank you for everything you do. I'm really proud to be part of this team that gets to recognize you in this way.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Congratulations, former Mayor Rattan. It's unfortunate I can't be there in person to shake your hand, but just much appreciation for your time of service to the city. It's a big responsibility being mayor, and I think you carried that role with a lot of dignity and respect. It was a pleasure reading your resume. You're quite a modest person, hearing about all these other extracurricular activities, diving, pilot license. Surprised that you had time to do all that while all the other work that you've done for the community. But very humble and never really speaking about that. So I'll be asking you much more questions next time we speak. But thanks so much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, who, as I indicated, can't be with us tonight, did send in the following remarks, however, and I'm going to read them. John Rattan exemplifies a profound truth about building community. It is constructive commitment, contribution, and care, not criticism and cynicism, that creates a lasting progress. Through decades of service, both as mayor and as a community leader, John has demonstrated this principle time and time again. As we bestow upon him the Freeman of the City, we not only honor his personal achievements, but also the enduring value of positive civic engagement that he represents. His legacy reminds us that true leadership is measured in sustained dedication to our community's well-being. Congratulations, John, but more importantly, thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, John. It's been such an honor to get to know you. What a lot of people don't realize is that this role of mayor is a tough one. You take far more criticism than you do, obviously, celebration of the work that you do. But often mayors go away from the table and quietly leave the room, never to be seen again, not really supportive of any other council or particularly events. And that's not you, John. In fact, I've been so impressed with how supportive you are to our current mayor and, of course, Bill McKay, and how supportive you are to all of us. And you are still out there at all of the events, just as you were so many years ago. You continue to do that. No one deserves this award more than you do, John. Your Worship, it's been an honor to get to know you, and I look forward to many more years. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations, former Mayor Rattan, on a very well-deserved award. I'll always remember having the privilege of coming to council and leading delegations, and you were always very fair-minded and very open-minded, and a great chair of the council. And I remember one delegation in particular was the Blue Communities one, where there was 3 parts. There was declaring water as a human right. That was pretty easy. Declaring that we should keep our water in public ownership and in public hands, and we have great water in Nanaimo. And the third part was a little more contentious, and that was the banning of bottled water in city facilities. And I know that wasn't an easy decision, but we have great water in our community, and we have the good leadership at the time with Mr. Sims, and now you can go into a city facility and have your water bottle filled up or find yourself a fountain. And I'll never forgive or forget the saucy young man, Councillor Anderson, bringing a case of bottled water to my house for a potluck, but that's another matter. And I also remember, when the Council of Canadians had their AGM here, it was one of the first full house conferences in this facility. And you were very gracious and went out and helped us plant a tree out at where the War Museum is now, the military museum, and just really appreciated how open and gracious you were. You're always a friendly face and always a welcoming person. Of showing up at your door not knowing where you lived. You didn't take a sign, I don't believe, but you were very gracious at the door as well. So thank you for your service to the community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Do I have my mic? Thank you. So congratulations. And in my mind, you're the original mayor of Nanaimo, because I moved here in 2013, and I really got to know the city by coming and covering city council meetings. And I saw your patient leadership at that time, and you always returned my calls when I was covering the various issues in Nanaimo in a timely manner, and that meant a lot to me. And you were generous with your time in sharing your knowledge of Nanaimo. And now I get to run into you very often downtown Nanaimo, which is really where my heart lies, and I really appreciate your commitment to a thriving downtown and the love that you have for Nanaimo. It's visible, we all feel it, and yeah, appreciate your commitment to the city and the positivity you've brought to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, and if we may, John Rattan. So say all of us. Now, he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so and Now, John, don't jump the gun. I'm not getting you to the mic just yet. Everybody sit down and relax. A couple more words. On behalf of Council and the citizens of Nanaimo, I am very honored and privileged, and in a few moments will present to John Rattan the official signed and sealed certificate of freeman of the city, which reads, the Nanaimo City Council at a meeting duly convened in the Douglas Rispin Room, Van Corallen Conference Center, City of Nanaimo, Province of British Columbia, on Monday the 9th of September 2024, at which all members were present, the following resolution was passed by unanimous vote, namely, that in pursuance of the powers vested in the City Council by statute, the freedom of the City of Nanaimo be and is hereby conferred on John Robertson Rattan in recognition and appreciation for his exemplary service and contribution and eminent public services rendered by him to the City of Nanaimo. John will also receive the official Freeman of the City Medal, which has been engraved, bestowed upon John Rattan September 9th, 2024. And most importantly, as Diana Johnson and Diane Brennan have come to appreciate it, he will get a small pecuniary award in the form of free parking for life at all city-owned parking lots and parkades, as well as in all city on-street parking meters, plus the Maffeo Sutton parking lot and the Brecken boat ramp, which for a diver might be important. In addition, John's photo will be placed on the official Freeman of the City Gallery outside this auditorium. John, I'm going to present the certificate to you in the circle here now, and we'll take some photos, and then I'm going to ask you to say a few words, and I'm sure as a politician you might have a few words to say.
Right here.
We're going to do this so that we don't take the big ugly screen, John. That means we don't want you there if you come over here.
Hang on, let me get out of the way.
You know, for a couple of guys who've been doing the grip and grin for years, we're not very good at this.
Not supposed to talk till we're doing it.
They'll take more than one. This ain't the 50s. Those cameras take hundreds.
All right. One more. Break.
Thank you. Now, hang on. missing the important part. Derek?
One more, Mayor Pro. Okay, I'll give you this to do that.
From the big bling to the little bling.
Yeah, we want a group shot with you on, so people can turn on their crew.
Coming around?
Yeah, let's get everybody in. Yeah, okay, so everybody can come into the inner circle.
Come around.
Okay.
Fix bronze. Suck it in like the rest of us.
Right there.
Maybe up a bit here. Well, good evening, everyone, and I want to tell you, I mean, this is, to me, an incredible honor, and I really want to thank our mayor, Len Krogh, for what he has done, and certainly all members of the council that are behind me for the job they're doing day in and day out for the city, and we know what it's like, having been riding that horse once before. Pardon me. The one thing I wanted to acknowledge also, and I think the mayor did earlier, that we are on the traditional territory of the Chenemo First Nations, and appreciate the opportunity to hold this ceremony on their land. I want to just touch base with a couple of questions that I'm often asked by people. How have you found Nanaimo change? Was it a major change? Did you notice much difference? And let me tell you, it's like day and night. And I'll give you an example. When I first came to Nanaimo 6 decades ago, I found a little bachelor apartment on Rose Hill. It was the corner of Rose Hill and Terminal Avenue. And there was a fourplex there. It was quite new at the time. They had also a very large empty lot that was part of the property as well. And I liked it. It was small, kind of nice and easy to look after. But the rent was a little bit of a challenge for me. $65 a month I had to pay. And, you know, so I thought, hey, this city, there's some good things going on here. $65. I remember my first TV set that I had in there, it had knobs on it you had to turn with both hands. That was one of these things, it was huge. But it was a wonderful place to start out with as a young guy. First thing that people came to me and said, join the Junior Chamber of Commerce, the JC Club, because you're going to get a lot out of it. And all the movers and shakers were there, Frank Ney, Ron McIsaac, and I couldn't name them all. My good friend Doug Skillings, that's where I first met him. It was a wonderful place to meet friends and learn public speaking. Would have to follow over those words. And it was just a wonderful, great opportunity, to meet people. Then from there, Diane and I moved to Ocean Court, 610 Comox Road. It's not a commercial, that's where it was. And there we had to pay quite a bit more in rent. Had a beautiful view overlooking the ocean, $105 a month, but I had to actually pay an extra $2.50 to cover the TV cost on it too. So $107.50 a month wasn't too bad. Now, just to give you a quick step ahead, I moved out to Lantzville, and there was a small cottage that we bought there, further out from where I now live, and it was on sale. I had a real estate guy phone me up. This is probably, I don't know, Lisa, you can't remember. Well, you can't remember. You weren't here. But I just remembered that. What's that? Okay. Oh, thank you. 1968. Anything else you can help me with? No, okay. Anyway, thank you. And so this thing came on the market. It was very small, 2-bedroom, and as I say, a beautiful view of the Neuse Harbor. But the price was $13,500. We paid for it, and you know, it was small. But we did a lot of improvements as years went by, and in the final analysis, I think within the last 2 or 3 years, the current owner, had it up for about $2 million. But in fairness, I mean, my wife and I, put a great deal of money into renovations and expansions, extensions on it, and subsequent owners, I think, have done the same. But it just shows you what happens with value. You never know when it's going to change. Anyway, I want to say how important it is, rather, for me to welcome all the people here tonight, and they're all friends. I appreciate the time coming. I know you, and some of you, I won't name names, but probably really preferred to be at home and watch Donald Trump on television tonight. But I appreciate that you did take the time not to do that, but to come and for this event. And so, really, in conclusion, I want to say I don't think there's a finer city that you could find than Nanaimo. And the people are great. The community has so much to offer. And let me tell you, with the mayor and council that we got now behind us doing great things, it's going to get better. So thank you. Bear with us, and you'll see the future is bright and rosy indeed. Thank you very much. Sorry, I forgot page 2. No, that's not true. That's not true. I couldn't leave without thanking Donna. Donna Simmons is here from the city, and she's the rep for the mayor and secretary for mayor and council. And she's done an incredible job in putting this all together. And, you know, you can see that motherly instinct, that I'm holding the sign up and look at her, and she's, you can see she's almost leaning, trying to get me to straighten it up. But she was very thoughtful throughout. She put a lot of work into it, and I truly appreciate the time. Thank you very much, Don.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for being part of the ceremony tonight and the support you've shown to John. And on behalf of council, thank you so much for attending. John, you did a much better job thanking Donna, which is my next note to myself, so I'll just say ditto. Donna really runs City Hall, so if you want some action down there, don't call me, just call Donna, okay? John, again, congratulations. It's been an honor for all of us. You're a truly compassionate leader in every sense of the word. You've demonstrated leadership qualities throughout your life. It inspires all of us to pursue dreams, to consider public service and the value and joy of giving back to your community. You've made Nanaimo a better place. You couldn't ask for a higher accolade. And tonight we just formally recognize it with a medal and a certificate and some free parking. As Ian said, couldn't think of someone who merits the award and recognition more than you. So thank you so much. One round of applause, and then the rest of you, unless you're anxious to stay, and you are welcome to stay for the council meeting. We will take a 10-minute recess after the applause in order for the gallery to clear, and then we'll get on with the more mundane, less exciting, and far less joyful but important and necessary work of the city. Thank you, John Rattan. You are a good man. Get excited. Pickleball's become a growing sport. That requires courts. We just spent over $500,000 new courts at Bevan Park. And in addition, obviously, the infrastructure. Look, the water, the sewer, the garbage, the delivery of those kinds of basic services are crucial. And that's what the budget's all about.
For a look at the budget and opportunities to ask questions, visit the city's website. In the meantime, enjoy the wonderful community and the services that
All right, everyone, if we can return to the regular agenda. The next is a presentation from Carly Peerboom, Executive Director, Tourism Nanaimo, coming in via Zoom. We hope. Looks like it's working. Ms. Peerboom, good evening, welcome.
Thank you for having
floor,
me.
The floor is yours.
That was a very exciting start to the evening, so even though I wasn't there, it was enjoyable. So congratulations to Mr. Rutten. Thank you for having me this evening. It's nice to see you all. Before we get started to this evening, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are in Snuneymuxw Nation's territory, and their connection to this land and their enduring commitment to its stewardship, growth, and positive impact are evident in their ongoing efforts and achievements. And certainly our efforts are guided by this respect and collaboration, and we're dedicated to amplifying their stories, celebrating their rich history, and supporting both youth and sport initiatives and building meaningful relationships. If we could move to the next 2 slides, please. And the next slide. Thank you. Well, here we are in Q1, which is coming fast and furious. So there's a few things that I wanted to point out as we look at this part of the year. These are the remaining parts of our mandate that were created at the inception of Tourism Nanaimo. And as we continue to evolve and refine our annual strategies, the following mandates will remain our guiding pillars for Tourism Nanaimo. And these foundational principles certainly represent our commitment to sustainable growth and responsible destination management, ensuring that Nanaimo's long-term success as a vibrant tourism hub comes to reality. The interpretation of these mandates can look different depending on what we are seeing in both challenges and growth in industry. And so this year, these mandates look like supporting research and development, so being dedicated to investing in research and development for the industry specifically, ensuring that we're using the innovation and technology to make sure that we're adaptable and providing our stakeholders and community with the most accurate information. It also looks like increasing overnight visitation, and this remains a key priority, obviously, for industry and growth. And this will be supported by strategic marketing, collaboration with partners, and alignment with city planning. And our efforts here are also to emphasize responsible management of the destination and preserving it for years to come. And then the last one there really speaks to investing in destination development. So continuing to strategically invest in initiatives that enhance Nanaimo's offerings and create compelling experiences to not only draw visitors, but also strengthen the city's position as a premier destination. And so while these mandates are not static, they are continuously evolving. They certainly meet the emerging challenges that we see in the tourism landscape, and they will provide a strong framework for guiding our efforts this year and also maximizing our impacts in the years to come as we follow the 2025 to 2030 strategy. If we could have the next slide, please. So for Q1, our focus is really grounded in 5 key areas: enhancing visitor experiences, strengthening accessibility, and expanding sport and tourism events. Also boosting our industry collaboration, not only locally, but also provincially and nationally, to elevate Nanaimo's place. And each of these priorities are supported by actionable initiatives and driving measurable results. We want to ensure that the work that we're doing is creating economic impact in alignment with community goals overall. Next slide, please. When we look at this specifically, and again, going back to those 5 key areas that we're focusing on this year, Tourism Nanaimo is focused on amplifying its unique tourism offerings, both from strategic digital campaigns and partnerships and regional collaborations, while also pursuing funding and initiatives to sustain and enhance these key events, like the Illumination Festival, collaborating with the city and industry partners to make that as robust as possible. Next slide, please. Tourism Nanaimo is prioritizing inclusive and seamless travel experiences by collaborating with experts. We're hosting additional workshops this year. We're advancing accessibility initiatives, and we're improving transportation connectivity through seasonal routes and mapping, really paying attention and pulling that alignment from the city's Reimagine plan, specifically in C2 of integrated walk, roll, cycle, and transit network. Next slide, please. Sport tourism, again, thanking council for their support in this initiative to get it going in terms of hiring our new sport tourism coordinator, who is becoming frequent with city staff now and also facilities as they are continuing their onboarding. And certainly we're looking to strengthen this position and building out capacity for sport in tourism in Nanaimo. Forming strategic partnerships, again, we're in talks with Burnaby, Richmond, Greater Victoria to understand and align with best practices while introducing initiatives like the Sport Tourism Committee. An event bid book will be created, a facility guide is going to be done, and also relaunching the grant program to attract and support larger events and enhancing that local engagement with sports specifically. Next slide, please. When we're looking at collaboration and partnerships, we are always looking locally, regionally, and provincially, making sure that through unified planning and marketing and messaging that we're strengthening those relationships with ITBC and local hoteliers and cultural groups, and we're driving to create that cohesive and impactful tourism development strategy that has been outlined in the 2025 and 2030 and how that works with the various partners that we come in contact with throughout the province. Next slide, please. And Tourism Nanaimo is positioning the city as a vibrant cultural hub by leveraging our data-driven insights that we've seen through different campaigns over this past year. We're continuing to host media tours and fostering high-profile media relationships. I wasn't going to read through the list necessarily on here, but participating in these key industry events while also ensuring that we are telling our story, we're creating and amplifying opportunities for our partners. But it's not just about tourism, it's about the community overall. So really working with some larger PR and media efforts this year. And next slide, please. So our intentions always are to ensure that we're supporting tourism, but that it's a greater benefit to the overall community. And we know that a lot of that can be done through data-driven decisions. And so we're working on a new platform that will integrate quite a bit of information from key locations throughout the city, and that will then be shared with the city. It will also be on a portal. It'll also be on a portal, for industry to review and look at as well, so that they can also make those informed decisions when needed. Next slide, please. So as we move forward in this first quarter, I wanted to keep this short and concise. There's lots of detail and tactical information that certainly can be shared. But in reality, we're remaining focused on delivering measurable outcomes and really leveraging the data insights that we want to see this year to refine our strategy. We're looking forward to presenting more detailed progress and tangible results in our next update in the second quarter. Certainly we have some highlighting positive impact stories that will be coming to fruition by then, and we're looking forward to sharing that with the community at large. And to council and to our industry partners, obviously continued support and input are essential as we work together to achieve our shared vision for Nanaimo and tourism specifically. And so looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish this first quarter, and the list is long, but in the second quarter, we also have some other deliverables that we're looking towards. So building the foundation for that. I'm trying to keep it concise. I know you have a long evening, so thank you. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any of those this evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Paraboom. I'm looking around. I do have one question myself. You referenced meetings with Petroglyph Enterprises, which is the Snuneymuxw First Nation Development Company. I take it that's more focused on what I will call business opportunities than cultural in the specific sense. Is that fair to say? And if you could just comment further what you're hoping to achieve there.
So working with Petroglyph Group is always a great collaboration when it comes to their amplification of experiences on Sasatchin Island. Also some of their other initiatives that they're doing when it comes to development in smaller businesses that we would like to align with as well, that will add to the experiences locally. So working with them and having those discussions is always good. And then of course we're working with the nation on amplification of Snuneymuxw Days this year and trying to get an understanding as well of any sport initiatives that may be coming down the lines so that we are able to work with them on that. And then the other part of that is ITBC, which is Indigenous Tourism of British Columbia, has also been reaching out on wanting to onboard Nanaimo for some new priority projects that they have, and so connecting Petroglyph and the nation to that opportunity as well.
Excellent, thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
The next is Colin Stansfield, Chief Executive Officer, Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation. Mr. Stansfield, good evening, welcome. On a sentimental note, I was talking to someone the other day who I won't mention, who spoke very highly of your father and his position as Chief Judge of the Provincial Court of British Columbia. Thought I'd pass that on.
He was a good man. Nice to hear that. And a pleasure to be here, back with you again, Your Worship, Council. Recognizing that we were just together in December, I too will try to keep it short and sweet with the mundane part of an otherwise very fun evening. My button here, there we go. And so MPC, of course, grateful partner of the Snuneymuxw Nation, thankful for their leadership and pursuit of economic reconciliation on these lands and waters that they have stewarded since time immemorial. There we go. Forgive me, I'm slow with the button here. There we go. And of course, at the same time, Pride of Partnership extends into our relationship with the city, the Port Authority, the Nanaimo Airport Commission, Vancouver Island University, and the Nanaimo District Chamber of Commerce, together through championing major projects, elevating local industry, stimulating investment, and strengthening community development. We're certainly trying to strengthen our collective capacity to realize that shared vision for a prosperous Nanaimo. In December, what that looked like, forgive me, there seems to be a bit of a lag here, was when we really tried to make a concerted effort to push folks in that most consumptive of seasons to make sure that they were spending their dollars locally. Focused on, of course, trying to get the message out that really it is impactful when we spend locally, that local businesses recirculate $63 out of every 100 back into the local economy, compared to only $14 by multinationals. They give 25 times more to local charities, that their profits are often reinvested locally, and that even a 10% shift in shopping from chains to local businesses creates 14,150 jobs and $4.3 billion in our provincial economy, and so it is meaningful work. And now, while that holiday shopping campaign was centered around just 1 week, the message of doing whatever we can to support local, of course, holds true all year. From a programming perspective, we can build on the business to consumer campaign by thinking about business to business transactions, making sure that our local businesses are supporting one another in their procurement of goods and services. But also then thinking about business, government to business, and how we might sort of reinvigorate some of those social and impact procurement policies that have existed and are very important when we think about big projects. So then in December also, of course, we were grateful to once again secure the confidence of this council when you approved our budget. For us, over the next year, our goals are certainly to make sure that we're building out our capacity, bringing on additional staff resources, making a shift from startup to mission delivery, really here ramping up our programs, and then diversifying our revenue. We recognize the need to bring in and secure additional grants to explore opportunities for earned revenue, and so making sure that we are not permanently so reliant on the city of Nanaimo. When we focus ahead to the Q1, we look at really kicking off in earnest the socioeconomic impact study of expanded health services and infrastructure. And so this is work that MPC is going to run point on, but is directly connected to the collaborative efforts of the Fair Care Alliance and the sort of interest holders across the healthcare ecosystem. We should have this project kicked off in the coming month. We're just making sure that we have the full tab covered, but we should have that report then ready before summertime. On the investment attraction front, in December, we submitted a grant application to the Can Export Community Investments Program, looking for multiple years of funding that will pay for more than 50% of our foreign direct investment strategy. And so the goal of this initiative is to establish Nanaimo as a leading foreign direct investment destination on Vancouver Island and in British Columbia. On the immediate horizon, MPC will be putting out a job posting to bring on some staff capacity and creating a trade advisory board, which is one of the recommendations in the economic development strategy, to make sure that this work is guided by those who know best about how we position ourselves well on that global front. Also for us in Q1, wait for it to catch up, there we go. We're gonna have the first convening of what I'm going to casually refer to as the breakfast table. And so this is BREA programming, and it felt too easy not to have a cute name for it. In many ways, classic BRE programming, but in this case done with recognition that nobody owns this file, that in fact these programs are more effective when they're delivered through partnership with shared resources, expertise, and networks. My promise to the participating groups was this isn't about getting together to dream up new work, but rather to make sure that we are all fully aware of what each other is doing, finding those opportunities for partnership, for collaboration, and where gaps are identified to explore who's best to run ahead with those. I do also want to offer a special thanks to Amrit Manhas, who has been really helping to focus our efforts on collective attention on this business retention, expansion, and attraction. I think the city is a great enabler of local business, and Amrit is a tremendous resource and champion for those local businesses. While I had your attention tonight, I also just wanted to sort of bring up a few things that we have on our radar that I thought perhaps if I planted seeds in your head as you go about your good work over the coming weeks and months, something might take root and you might reach out. First, the critical importance of protecting and expanding our industrial lands. Industrial lands are essential for economic growth and stability. They're important for efficient land use and sustainability, and they support community prosperity and equity. And there are some pretty key threats to our existing stock of industrial land when we think about residential encroachment, environmental change, regulatory constraints, public sentiment, aging infrastructure, fragmented policy frameworks. But all of these can be met with actionable strategies that are already aligned with things that Council has supported, whether that's our city plan, the integrated action plan, or the economic development strategy. We've already made those commitments, and now it's time to sort of stand up and make sure that we are there for them. We are hearing quite frequently these days from concerned industry players who are calling to our attention the need to make sure that we have those lands available for our continued growth. Second then, continuing on that land file, social purpose real estate and just the massive potential to leverage community and charitably owned land to create social assets like workforce housing and affordable commercial space. On the workforce housing front, identifying city-owned properties that could be suitable for programs like BC Builds would be a great extension of the city's already excellent track record around working with BC Housing. I know that John and his team from SBO are going to share more about their incredible work, preventing and creating pathways out of homelessness. We're excited to build on that by widening the city's impact to include more of that housing spectrum. At the end of the day, I think really it's about making the most of what is sometimes referred to as the secret wealth of cities, that ability to create vibrant, inclusive public spaces and drive economic growth, to enhance community well-being and to foster social connections. This is stuff that we can do with what we already have at hand. And then finally, the hot topic du jour. I mean, December was a month of almost daily announcements in the AI and machine learning space. And so in a rapidly changing and wickedly disruptive space, how can we make sure that Nanaimo is at least not falling behind, but ideally making the most of these great tools? They enable faster problem solving, to improve planning processes, they realize cost savings and deliver better services. But before we can get to bleeding or leading edge solutions like having a digital twin city, it's first we have to think about what we're going to do to ensure our data readiness. Assessing our current data landscape, establishing data governance frameworks, building data infrastructure, assuring data quality and standardization, providing data literacy. These are all very important first steps as we move down that path. You heard Carly mention from Tourism data-driven decisions. Tourism in Nanaimo and NPC, now that we are roommates, are having more of these lunchtime conversations about what we can do together this year to show what data can really do to transform an industry. My friend Jennifer Huffnagel, who some of you might recognize from Innovation Island, we were on the phone last week and she was saying, isn't it odd that You can't spell Nanaimo without AI. There's got to be something there. What would it take to make Nanaimo a real AI center of excellence on the island? And I think that's a pretty good idea. And so with that, I'll just, I think I've hopefully held it kind of short, kind of sweet. With that brief update, remind you that, of course, we're constantly publishing updates and news stories across our own channels. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to our newsletter. If you took a picture of that QR code that's in the agenda, it would take you right to making sure that your email is registered with us. And so with that, I'll stop, throw it over to you if there are any questions, and if not, look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much. Any questions, council? We're going to let Mr. Stansfield off easy tonight.
Great.
Mr. Stansfield, you're off easy tonight.
Thank you much.
Don't go home and watch Trump. Thank you very much. The next is John McCormick, Executive Director, and Andrew Thornton, Research and Knowledge Mobilization Lead, and Willow Hills, Data Coordinator for the Nanaimo Systems Planning Organization. Mr. McCormick, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and nice to see everyone, Council. We're happy to be here today, and notwithstanding the inauguration that happened earlier today, which maybe made a few of us feel a little queasy. Maybe some others are happy, I'm not sure. In the spirit of that, I brought my muscle with me tonight, and from the SPO's perspective, that's in the form of my research and knowledge mobilization team. So Dr. Andrew Thornton and Willow Hills, they will be presenting the balance of the presentation, so I will be brief in my comments and then turn the floor over to them. We're going to do a quick update on the activities we've been engaged in since we last spoke, which seems like it was very recent. And then, as I said, I'll pass it over to the team. And just to, again, reiterate that we act and operate in a consulting capacity with partners and stakeholders in the community. And that continues to ramp up over time. We're working in multiple committees, funding committees with BC Housing, with Island Health. We're working to shepherd along activities like Travelers Lodge. We are working with community agencies that are interested in developing shelter and housing spaces. And we're also doing very good work, and I think you'll see from the work of my colleagues that we're really starting to get a sense of what's going on across the community. So just a reminder that we're created at the SPO as a result of the Health and Housing Action Plan. One of the pieces of work that we're working with city staff on is to update the Health and Housing Action Plan so that we're working with current numbers. So we've done some of that work. We'll be working with the social planning team to provide, create an addendum to the existing Health and Housing Action Plan so it stays current, which I think is very important. So our activities that we're engaged in right now, as I said, we're working closely on a couple of projects related to development support services, and I think maybe an opportunity for us to come in soon to speak to council in camera about those activities. I'd look forward to that opportunity soon, not today, but soon. As you know, we are engaged in weather-related programming in the form of the Extreme Weather Response Program that BC Housing funds, and anyone who walked around this evening knows that we are in need of that program. We're going to need it this week for sure. It has opened once already, and we're working in partnership with Maranatha Church on that program. Sorry, let me go back. The systems planning task force is really intended to action the activities or the recommendations of the Health and Housing Action Plan. And we'll be very targeted. We'll try and do a few things very well rather than trying to do everything. It's important, I think, that we are focused in that work. So we're going to really focus in on trying to increase the inventory of below-market housing in the community. Travelers Lodge is fast moving from, I'd like to say it's fast moving from that idea to actually housing people. We're looking over in the next month, I think, at Pacifica Housing starting to move people into Travelers Lodge. I know that the final repair work that was needed has been completed or is in the process of being wrapped up. So I think that idea is finally coming to fruition, and I'm pretty excited about that. I'll leave it to my colleagues to talk about data collection. in the same vein as Colin just spoke about with AI, there's some really interesting work that's being done out of London, Ontario, and we've been interested and been using or exploring artificial intelligence and how that can be used to help us inform our work and help to make us more capable in facilitating, coordinating, and collaborating with our partners, and really understanding what's going on, keeping our arms around what is emerging information that can help us to do our work. And then also, very importantly, we are working with our Vancouver Island community partners. Vancouver Island's community of homeless and people at risk of homelessness is a bit of a sort of a flow between communities, and so we're both sharing information with them, in some cases helping communities to get up to speed, and otherwise wanting to and looking for opportunities to partner with communities up and down the island. So I think pretty important work as well. So I'll pass it over to Andrew and Willow, and then we'll wrap it up after that. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Good evening, Your Worship, Council. I'm Andrew Thornton. This is my colleague, Willow Hills. And John, you took the bleeper away. You want to? Okay, next. Janice said to go quick. But anybody who knows me, that doesn't usually happen. Just to remind people, or not remind, but emphasize, the SPO's key mandate is to do research, provide data, inform the community, and especially our emphasis is on applying external data to the local, but finding local data that we can apply to our situation here, but also communicate that out to the powers that be in terms of when we go to ask for stuff, we know what we're asking for in terms of the shape, size, and duration of it. Next. This is a list of things. John's covered a lot of the stuff we've done. I'm going to turn it over to Willow shortly, and he's going to talk about a project we did with the very exciting name of Multi-Source Data Project. Unfortunately, often in research, you can't come up with sexy, interesting names, but what's in the data is what's interesting and sexy, if you want to think about it that way. Also, one of the things I'll emphasize, we're working collectively, Willow and I and John, with 10 other reaching home communities and developing federal, provincial alignment of the homelessness response, in particular in relation to using the HIFIS database system, but also aligning belonging in BC and the reaching home directives, which has been ongoing. The official launch of the alignment was June 2024, but we've really been doing that work for about 2 years, which is a lot of paperwork, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And also, one of the things I will draw attention to, and then we'll move on, although I do like to talk about what I do, is John and I have been working with the Snuneymuxw Housing Department to develop a first draft of a housing policy. And that's very interesting and exciting work that will be continuing. We're just starting that. Next. So I'll talk about the title. Here's a more interesting title for you and more familiar, hopefully. One of our issues, one of the issues that governments have, that service providers have, that we all have, is finding useful data, quality data, to do our work, to inform our work, to inform our decision making. In our current context, we're yet to access the full strength of the data system that is known as HIFIS. We're using the BIT, but we don't have full access to it yet. We will in the coming months. Instead, we went out and collected our own data. And I will turn it over to Willow shortly, but I want to give a big round of applause to Willow for the Outshop data. Willow went through individually 3,600 single intake forms because they had not previously been put into an electronic database. So if nothing, Willow is committed and has endurance, and I'll turn it over to them to speak to the projects.
Thanks, Andrew. Greetings, Mayor and Council. Given the fluid nature of experiences of homelessness and due to a lack of a community-wide homelessness management database system such as HIFIS, accurate and up-to-date homelessness data for Nanaimo remains elusive. However, analyzing the data that we do have Access to provides a sound basis for understanding homelessness in the community and allows, as the previous presenters mentioned, data-driven decision-making. Our review compares 3 distinct data sources, including the nationally coordinated point-in-time count held in Nanaimo over a 24-hour period in the spring of 2023, a by-name list blitz co-created with Nanaimo service providers that gathered data from active client files over a period of 1 year that was then sorted for duplication prior to being anonymized, as well as we have the data from the Canadian Mental Health Association Mid-Island Branch's Outshop program that had provided tents, sleeping bags, and other survival supplies to unhoused individuals from 2021 until the program's closure in 2024. Next slide, please. A little slower. Of course, Councillor Perino. So each data source that we used different data collection methods and timeframes. Despite this, the demographics across the 3 studies are nearly identical. The consistency seen across these studies enables a deeper understanding of experiences of homelessness in Nanaimo, and it can be used to inform the community's response. Page. However, it will be important to keep in mind when making community asks of funders that according to our research, a high percentage of unhoused individuals in Nanaimo are having little to no interaction with services. And this will have a significant impact on what kinds of supports are needed in our community moving forward. I'll turn it back to Andrew to discuss some of the nuances of inflow and outflow into homelessness that we're seeing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I always love diagrams with arrows in them. They often make sense to the author, but when presented to other people, they go, huh? So I will attempt to explain this. This is borrowed with a few minor tweaks, but the real point of it is to give some idea of the difficulty and complexity of tracking and identifying homelessness numbers. In particular, if you look at the 3 arrows on the left, they represent all the different ways that people enter homelessness. The issue there is we've spoken with people at the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness, what is now called Housing Infrastructure Communities Canada. The acronym is HIC, unfortunate. We've also spoken with our good friend Sam Simbaris, who's the inventor of Housing First, and said, how do people come into homelessness? We know the kind of high-level stuff. We know the structural, government policy, inflation, housing costs, but we have very poor predictive capacities about how people on an individual basis enter into it. But we know they do. And so this tells us not the what, or not the how, but the what. So, and the most important thing here is to recognize that we have, we call it flow, through the experience of homelessness and becoming housed. One of the keys is identifying who's homeless and tracking them. Not as straightforward as you might think, or maybe you already think that's not that straightforward and move to the front of the class. Even then, when we have outflow, we either lose track of people, they get housed, they move to another community. Which again, if we want to think about outflow in particular and the implications of that for our numbers, we may lose track of people, and on our database we have 1,000 homeless, and then the next month we only have 900. Have we reduced homelessness, or have just 100 people left the community, or been housed, or jailed, or put in treatment? So the resolution of that is to have a managed database, something along the lines of HIFIS, which is called the Homeless Individuals and Families Information System. This is a product of the federal government, actually built it, and that's coming online. And Willow and I have been working actively with community agencies to increase their capacity to use the tool, but we yet to have full access to the environment, or the production environment it's called, i.e. the fully functioning system, so we can do this kind of thing and keep track. The reason that's relevant is because if we go back just to the previous slide quickly, or the one before that actually. So what we have in the 3 studies, what I will say is we have accuracy, not precision. All of you who either fire guns or have taken research methods will know there's a difference between accuracy and precision. And so we think we have accurate data. What we also have is the description. We don't have an explanation. So we have a pretty good idea of what our cohorts look like, what our demographics look like at a very general level, and what we think our numbers are at a very general level. But because the experience of homelessness is fluid, because if we think back to that previous diagram I was showing you about inflow and outflow, it's like accounting. What your accounting says today is not a picture of today. It's an accounting of what you think is happening with your money and your system. That's the kind of same thing we're trying to do. We can see the trends, we can see the patterns, and they're all pointing in the same direction. That's just to thank the people who worked with us. Looking forward, nice image I borrowed from someone else. You can go forward, yeah. Just to keep going. This is a lot of the things we'll be doing in 2025 are a continuation of things we were doing in 2024, but I'll bring particular attention to, I'll be coming back with another pig count report. I know you're waiting. I'm still waiting for the data company to deliver the Excel spreadsheet to me. I will let you know I hand-delivered the surveys to the input agency myself. I took a ferry over, the Hullo ferry, and I walked them to the office because I was terrified they were going to get lost in the mail strike. But I haven't got them back yet, subsequently. But we'll be getting those back, and I'll have a report for you. And I want to emphasize also that we worked with the city very closely on that project, and thank Dave Labarge in particular, and the CSOs and Barry Hornby for working with us to do the planning, as well as Christy Wood, and in particular the use of the GIS system to allow us to get a much more comprehensive coverage, and because we knew where we'd been and we knew where we were going to go next to try to find people. The other thing I would emphasize is, and some of you will be getting an invite, some of you won't, don't be offended, to our Research Advisory Committee very shortly. We're continuing to work on national dialogue about medium-sized communities. It's quite clear medium-sized communities in BC in particular, but across Canada are in a particularly unique position, both in terms of what's happening to them that's difficult around homelessness, but also the responses they're able to make, because it's not a great phrase. We have big city problems, but we still have the small kind of city, small town kind of connectivity and understanding of the context among the people who work here that is not the same as somebody who's in Toronto or Calgary. And we're working on that quite actively. And I won't go through the other. If you want to ask me about any of these later, feel free. But I think that's, yeah, is that it? Oh, wait, you get a preview of the pig count data. So here's the trend data. Like I said, from preliminary analysis, which is me counting things by hand, not in an Excel spreadsheet, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a 20% increase from 2023. I'm contractually not allowed to tell you the exact number until the data is actually given to the federal government, but you'll get it as soon as they do. But just to give you an idea, where we're at, the trend is obvious, but let's say it's not unique in Canada either. Although I think Nanaimo's, the reasons for Nanaimo's homelessness and the solutions are unique, without going into that in any great detail. Next. So just to generally, I don't know why our presentation all broke up like that, but that's okay. We're focusing on our work, what I started with, local data to impact local responses, but also data externally to impact what we're doing here. So not just working in a vacuum and looking one way, but looking around, up and down, and spinning in circles. our heads are swimming on a regular basis with the information and data we're trying to compress into a shape that City Council can use, that we can use, and that we'll plug into other policy and sources of data that say the same thing, and or upend what other things say, so that we can say we have the data and we also are ready, because one of the major projects, like I said, we're doing is the alignment of the homelessness response it's actually at a local, regional, provincial, and federal level. I'll end with that. The point of that is and the horizon for that is not the next year or 2 years. It's the next 20 or 25. And hopefully what we're doing when we're meeting with people and when we're meeting with you is demonstrating that Nanaimo is prepared when the funders come and BC Housing comes and the federal government comes. Here's what we need, here's how much, here's when, and here's how long we hope it will take. Thanks. I think John's going to do a summary.
Yeah. I'll just go back actually just to the slide, coming to this one. This is the slide again that if you're looking at the graphics, I am, and I think everyone around the room and at council should be concerned about what's not on this page. And that is the 3 arrows for inflow. We have no way of knowing how many people are precariously housed who are at risk of flowing into homelessness. And no one across the country can help us to figure that out at this point in time. If someone has a way for us to be able to predict or know, it's very important for us to have that conversation, but we haven't been able to figure out exactly how to do that work. And so it means that we can't really be sure of what we're looking at in the coming years, because we don't know how close to the edge many community members are in Nanaimo, in the region, who may be homeless over the next few years. So I just wanted to point that out and let that percolate in all of our brains about that. It is very high on our list of wishes that we could figure out what that looks like and be able to identify people before they slipped into homelessness, because that's the best time to be able to try and keep them housed. But no one across the country really has a beat on that, and it is, for me, quite disturbing and terrifying, really. So, leave you with that cheery note. I will just say that, I think I'm going the wrong direction. I apologize. We are, as I always say, we're working on a few activities that are really important, and we are committed to increasing the inventory of housing and really making it possible for our community agencies to do terrific work to be able to house people. The biggest challenge we have is the lack of housing at this time, and we obviously need, based on the point in time count, a lot more housing than we have at this time. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a very quick question through you. John, you did talk about the Travelers Lodge.
Yes.
You said, I think that you said that people are starting to move in right now. Is that your understanding?
Not yet. Soon.
Not yet? Okay.
In the coming weeks, my understanding is it's going to be in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
So we're supporting Pacifica, who are the operator of record, in that effort.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say we're all anxious to see it up and running.
Me too.
Sure.
And even more so that people are going to be housed in it. I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much, all three of you. Appreciate it.
Your Worship, I'm not sure if Councillor Gesselbrock had his hand up.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you do, Councillor Gesselbrock. My apologies. Don't
Thanks.
worry, gentlemen, folks.
I just had a question to Mr. Thornton. There's been a lot of there's funding been put towards and a lot of work towards the coordinated access computer program, HIFIS, and I'm just curious when that's going to be coming more online to be utilized by community service providers and the SBO, and then what full access to that computer program and that process is going to allow us to do better into the future that we can't do now.
Okay, I'll keep this as brief as I can. It's the HIFIS, access to the full production environment for HIFIS is based on gaining access to BC Housing's instance, which is the only instance in the province, and we're working with BC Housing, the Ministry of Housing, and Infrastructure Canada, or HIC, they're new, I can't get used to the new acronyms, and 10 communities to create the agreements, the policies, and procedures to allow us to all share the data and use the system. The major issue to that really is the firewall that BC Housing has to protect all of its data. And they're gonna add hundreds of new users. So that's been, a big part of it is, is less the technical and more the data sharing agreements and the privacy and impact assessments, all those kind of lovely things that you also are regularly dealing with. But so, and currently 2 communities are being test piloted for using the access with BC Housing's instance. And then we're told sometime March, April, a few more will be. And then when we have a functioning, fully functioning HIFIS to be able to produce quality data remains sometime in the future, I would say anywhere from 6 to 8 months, maybe 12. I'm just telling the truth. But we will start using it in this year. What it will do is, and the reason it is important and is one of the most important things it will do is track flow. We will be able to see when we've lost track of someone. We will be able to see someone who's gone into housing, stayed in housing for 6 months, and then ended up unhoused again. Those kinds of things will allow us to do that. Doing that even with a shared Excel form doesn't work because there's confidentiality issues. You have to get people to use the form the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the major things. The data will be largely live that we have at that point. We'll be able to be very quick in reacting to what's going on and seeing patterns in the data. You know, seems like we just added 100 seniors to our by name list that are unhoused, and we'll be able to see that. Whereas now we get reports, we get anecdotes. There seem to be a lot of youth. There seem to be a lot of seniors. There may well be, but we don't have solid evidence of who they are, how they became homeless, and how we can help them. That doesn't mean individual agencies aren't working with people and don't case manage people and don't try to take care of them, but we don't have a community-wide sense in terms of data of exactly what's happening. And in particular, one of the things that's going to be really valuable is case management. Because again, as you know, community agencies do case management with their clients, but this will allow us to do community-wide shared case management. So someone goes to CMHA, they will know that person's already been to Salvation Army, they've already been to see somebody at Snuneymuxw, and we won't be running around saying, and we won't have to ask people their stories again and again and again. They will already be in a system. So the other thing that is really important is it will allow us to generate tailored reports for Nanaimo, and not just, again, general data like we get from MSDPR, which actually MSDPR has very good data. I'd love to have access to their data. That's one thing you might ask the BC government to hurry up, is to allow us all to have better access to that kind of data. But absolutely tailored reports so that, again, we can say we need 20 units for female youth who are unhoused in the next year. Again, probably understood. And I'll just end with this one. It'll allow us to, again, one of our favorites, that's not just a favorite, it's really important. What is Nanaimo's situation compared to other communities? And how, I didn't end on that one, how in particular on the island is the flow of unhoused and vulnerable populations? What does it look like? Again, I think Island Health has some idea about that. I think MSDPR has some idea about that. But if we can begin to have a consolidated database, it won't just consolidate what we're doing in Nanaimo, it will consolidate what's happening on the island as well. Thanks for your question, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No further questions. Appreciate the attendance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item are committee minutes. They're just a receipt. No motions required. Looking for a motion for adoption of the consent items. Oh, Councillor Hemmens, you wish to pull one?
Yeah, apologies, I didn't share this earlier. I'd like to pull 10A2 for just a question to the chair.
All right. Is there a seconder for adoption? Councillor Eastmere. Councillor Hemmens moved it. We'll vote on those that we agree on. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Public Safety Committee, if we pass this, the council is going to invite representatives of the Newcastle Community Association to attend the next Public Safety Committee meeting to share their concerns regarding the impact of homelessness on residents and local businesses. I'll register just a concern that we're only going to invite one neighborhood association to speak about the impact of homelessness on residents and local businesses, and maybe just a question to the chair of how that came to be and whether the invite will be extended to other neighborhoods.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
The reason it came to us this way is because they wanted to appear as a delegation, and we were told, no, it has to be at the, it came from corporate services that council must do the invite. They can't, nobody else is asked to come forward to do a delegation. They did. And we were advised by the corporate services at the time that the way for them to do that is to make a request via council. So the committee made a motion to have council approve the request to have them come and speak as a delegation. It was at their request, not at our request.
Could I just have...
Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you. If I may just understand from a process perspective, so a committee cannot receive a delegation, council has to request that group. I'm thinking of the Bayview Parent Advisory Committee that also came to the Safety Committee, and that again felt like we were creating an environment for one group to do advocacy and lobbying of a council committee, and I just think it sets us in a terrible precedent.
Ms. Gurry.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Hemmens. I wasn't at this meeting or involved in this decision per se, but I think some of the background behind it is a few things, and Councillor Armstrong can correct me if I'm wrong, but originally with this committee, they wanted a standing item where Newcastle came to every meeting as a delegation.
Sorry, who wanted that?
Some of the committee members. So one committee member in particular wanted this group to come to every public safety meeting as a delegation, and that was no, that's outside of the terms of reference, et cetera. I know our CAO, who's not here right now too, so this might need to be a further larger discussion, wants delegations to wants them to be deferred to a committee based on a council decision, of the belief that delegations should come here, and if council wants to defer them to a committee, that it be a council decision. So I think that is how this is now on your agenda, is this matter. Like, so in our committee operating guidelines and our council procedure bylaw, it does say when you sign up to become a delegation, the corporate officer can defer it to a committee if it's more appropriate, and or council can. So that's the background I know. I think Councillor Armstrong might have some more information.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I think this is something that we should actually bring to I have it on the agenda item for a GPC to discuss how we deal with question period at committees, as well as how we deal with delegations. So I think we need a further discussion around it. But at the time, this is what Mr. Carr recommended, that the committee could make a motion requesting somebody come to speak to them, then it would come to council, and council would make that decision. So, I mean, if we want to defer this, I mean, I think maybe perhaps it could be deferred for a GPC. I don't know, that's up to how people feel, but it's something that I think we have to get sorted out, and it's something I think would be, from my perspective, a very good GPC topic.
And Your Worship, I'll just end with this from unless you have more questions. this delegation didn't request to come, so this is the committee requesting, so I think that's another reason why it's here. So the delegation, they didn't sign up, the committee is requesting they come, so that's one reason why now it's up to you to come, to make the decision. And to Councillor Armstrong's point, I do know that we are bringing forward some amendments to the procedure bylaw. So perhaps at that meeting, council can provide some direction or otherwise on how they see the delegations to committees. But right now, this delegation didn't ask to come. The committee is asking for them to come.
We did originally.
So I can't support this as is. I just think this is terrible process. I think if other neighborhood associations had the understanding that there was a conversation going on about homelessness in neighborhoods and there was only one neighborhood association invited, that just doesn't look good on us. That isn't a comprehensive conversation. I'm not satisfied with the process of bringing delegations to committees. So I'm not gonna vote in favor of this. I would appreciate us unpacking this a bit to figure out how to move forward in a way that isn't this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe, then Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I absolutely am not comfortable with this, and I share the concerns of Councillor Hemmons, but thanks, Councillor Armstrong, for your explanation. I'd like to move, if it's appropriate, that we defer this until following a GPC meeting where process regarding delegations to committees and so on can be further discussed.
That's seconded by Councillor Perino. Discussion further on this? Councillor Armstrong?
I think if this passes, I think, and I agree with what Councillor Hammond said, the place to come with your concerns is the council table first. And then if the council, and this is how it used to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Scurry, but if we felt that it would benefit, we used to refer the committee, or refer the delegation to one of the committees. So I agree that it needs to be sussed out more, so I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you. For what it's worth, this may surprise some members of council, I'm not going to support the deferral. I think we are a solution in search of a problem. I don't know that this has been an issue for the city previously or whether it might be an issue in the future if, in fact, the Newcastle Community Association does attend the Public Safety Committee meeting to share their concerns. And so I'd be... Sorry, no, they haven't. They haven't attended. No, I understand that. That's my point. If it becomes an issue with other associations requesting to come and appear before committees, then I'll be prepared to look at it. But for now, we've got one association representing a neighborhood that's been severely impacted, as we all well know, by the housing that the provincial government placed there some years ago. And I would like to see them have the opportunity to speak. So that's my position, but Councillor Hemmons, and then we can move to the vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I view this in the same way that I view the Parent Advisory Committee coming and speaking about road safety around Bayview. It's those who are perhaps a little bit more politically savvy, who understand the committees exist and understand they can get on agendas that are having their voices heard, and I don't think that's good process. So I hear you that this is a neighborhood that is impacted. I could give you 5 other neighborhoods that would like in on this conversation. So I think a deferral is appropriate until we figure out the best process here. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Hemmons, Thorpe, Perino, Manley, and Gesselbrock, and those opposed, c'est moi. Motion carries. Matters deferred. Thank you, Council. No delegations unrelated to agenda items. Under reports, the first is the false alarm regulation bylaw. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be turning it over to Ms. Robertson, who is here, to help introduce the process part of this bylaw. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody here from Police Services, so we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. But the purpose of this is to introduce a new false alarm bylaw for Council's consideration that would assist in reducing the number of unnecessary emergency responses for false alarms by members of the public. And Ms. Robertson will go into a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robertson.
Thank you. So as Ms. Scurry pointed out, this is part of the ongoing bylaw renewal project, and the Director of Police Services had identified that the service delivery model through the existing bylaw needed to be updated, given that there's a number of false alarms that have been happening. These false alarms require emergency responses, which create unnecessary delays, and they drain the resources and divert attention from legitimate demands. So when the bylaw was first drafted, which was way back in 1994, the cost of responding to these false alarms, according to the RCMP Contracting Policing Branch, amounted to the cost of 7 full-time officers. So something definitely needed to be put in place. The current bylaw as it exists has a process whereby the first 3 false alarms in any 12-month period are no charge. After the 4th and 5th alarm, the property owner is charged $140. Then after the 5th alarm, the director does have the authority at that point to provide notice that there will be no further responses. However, under the current bylaw, that owner also has the right for a hearing to appeal the process to the director. And if that's done, the attending officer has to write a report, and then a hearing gets convened, so it's, as you can imagine, quite a labor-intensive process. So assuming the service still continues, that individual can be allowed a 6th or 7th false alarm, and then the fee only goes to $200, and it is not until the 7th false alarm that the officer in charge has the authority to withdraw the alarm service. So by this time, a significant amount of resources have been expended. And just as an example, since March of 2023, the detachment has received 360 alarms by 34 business properties. Many are averaging between 9 to 20 false alarms, and we actually have one property that's incurred 40 in a 12-month period. So the other issue is that no up-to-date contact information is being provided to the monitoring agencies, and key holders are not being able to be reached. So again, the police services are having to sit and wait until the property owner can be contacted and the A-OK is given. So under the proposed new bylaw, it's going to address some of the shortcomings of the existing bylaw, and it's proposed to make it mandatory for a business owner or occupier to keep the RCMP informed in writing of the names, addresses, and telephone number for the monitoring agency, if applicable, or 2 people who will be known to be considered property references who can be contacted in the event of alarm. Failure to provide that information could result in a fine, which is another one of the bylaws up there. The new bylaw would also give the director the authority to give notice after the 3rd false alarm, that the RCMP would be in a position to not respond if they didn't address the issue instead of waiting until the 5th or 7th time. And the fee structure proposed would be that the first false alarm would still be free of charge, but $150 would be incurred after the 2nd false alarm and $500 for 3rd and subsequent alarms. It's also proposed to include a standby fee, so if the police officers are expected to stay on the property waiting for somebody to come and respond, there is a $300 fee associated with that. So really, the ultimate goal is just to limit the number of false alarms incurred by ensuring systems are installed and maintained correctly by the property owner, and that the monitoring company attempts to verify if the alarm is false before making that call to the RCMP. And if council is supportive, staff recommend that bylaws be given 3 readings to the false alarm regulatory bylaw, the fees and charges amendment bylaw, and the bylaw notice amendment bylaw.
Thank you very much. Council's had a chance to read the report. Mr. Councillor Manley?
Sounds like a huge waste of taxpayers' dollars, so I'm all in favor, and I'd like to move the recommendation from staff.
Thank you very much. Seconded, Councillor Perino. But in terms of reading the motion, it has to be read, and that's Councillor Perino's job.
Your Worship. Okay, first one is motion that false alarm bylaw number 2025, number 7392, a bylaw to reduce false alarms, pass first reading.
Seconded by Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Manley. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None.
Motion that the bylaw pass third reading.
Thank you very much. Motion. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Fees and charges amendment bylaw.
Motion that the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2025, number 7336.12, a bylaw to add false alarm fees, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And finally, the bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw.
Motion that bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 2025, number 7159.24, a bylaw to add fines for false alarms, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None.
Motion that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Manley. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed?
And
None.
finally, motion that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. It's now 5 after 9. We have a fair bit of an agenda to go through, so we will take the evening break.
To make wispy clouds play hide and seek with the setting sun, you send ripples through still waters of ponds, making them glisten like 1,000 prisons bathed in the brilliance of a fall morning. Come dusk, you blow harder.
Development Variance Permit Application DVP 469-395 Chesterley Avenue. Please, good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. So this next item is a development variance permit application for the property at 395 Chesterley Avenue. The applicant is wishing to convert an existing accessory building to a detached secondary suite. And the first step in the process is a development variance permit for a side yard setback. The applicant is requesting to vary the side yard setback for the accessory building from 1.5 meters to 1.42 meters and is requesting a variance to allow for the projection of eaves into the setback. And so the statutory notification was sent by mail to neighbors on January 9th, and staff are not aware of any concerns raised by the neighbors. The proposed variance would legalize the siting of the accessory building that was constructed in 1976. And if the variance is approved, the next step in the process is for the applicant to proceed with the building permit application for a proposed detached secondary suite.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to Development Variance Permit Application number DVP 469-395 Chesterley Avenue? Anyone present? All right. I see no questions.
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is City Plan Review 2025. Ms. Brinkman again, please.
Yeah, thank you. So the next 4 staff reports actually on the agenda introduce 4 projects that are being led by the community planning and current planning team this year. So this first project is a minor review of city plan to be led by the community planning team. And the main purpose for this review is due to new provincial requirements to ensure that city plan contains policy guidance to support the housing needs from the 2024 Interim Housing Needs Report. City plan was designed to accommodate a population of 140,000 people, so the total housing need is addressed. However, we will review each class of housing to ensure there is sufficient policy direction in place to meet the bedroom categories, the rental unit needs, and the income range needs. And we will consider if there are more actions that the city can do to address the different classes of housing need. Another reason to review city plan is related to the 3 transit-oriented area designations that were required by the province. City plan designates Woodgrove, Country Club, and VIU as urban centers, largely matching the intentions of the transit-oriented area designations. However, a closer review is needed as we may be able to streamline city plan policy and maps more closely with the transit-oriented area designation bylaw passed by Council in June 2024. And since we are doing a review of city plan, it makes sense to also reach out to the many departments that rely on city plan for guidance to see what minor text and map housekeeping amendments may be needed. And since we expect that all these recommended amendments would be minor in nature, the public communication and engagement for this project will be scaled appropriately. And so that engagement would take place in the spring of this year. So I'm happy to take any questions about that project that we hope to do this year, we'll do this year.
Thank you very much, and thank you to you and all staff involved in the work on this. Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a very quick question. I'm just wondering if the projected next steps that you have for this, Ms. Brinkman, are you going to be bringing those by any chance to, say, a GPC meeting where we can discuss it at length?
Thank you, through Your Worship, to Councillor Perino. A great question. And we, at this stage, we don't have a great sense of what those changes might be. And in fact, there could be decision points that we will need to bring to a Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. So that could well be the case.
Yeah, my only concern is, you know, it's a big issue for the public, right? And I just think that we need to discuss what changes are proposed to be implemented. So I look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Appreciate that, Ms. Brinkman. The next is zoning bylaw review. Again, you're on, please.
So an ambitious project that Mr. Horn is leading this year with Ms. Rowett's guidance is to review and update the city's zoning bylaw. It is best practice to update a zoning bylaw once a new official community plan is in place, like city plan. And this project will address several priority actions in the integrated action plan. And I will turn it over to Mr. Horn to introduce this project.
Mr. Horn, good evening. Ms. Rowett, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, so relevant information can be found in this evening's staff report, and I'll just quickly highlight some key points here. The zoning bylaw regulates land use and related elements, including density, building siting, building size, environmental protection, and a lot more if you've ever picked up the zoning bylaw. The current bylaw was adopted in 2011 and has seen a number of general and site-specific amendments since that time. As mentioned by by Ms. Brinkman, the bylaw review is largely driven by city plan and to address gaps between the existing zoning bylaw regulations and city plan objectives. Since the adoption of city plan, there have, of course, been a number of provincial housing initiatives which also impact zoning. Some of these include small-scale multi-unit housing, the housing needs requirements, density benefits rules, as well as inclusionary zoning. The province has also introduced a requirement for financial feasibility analysis of density benefit schemes. And in Nanaimo's case, this will lead to a review of Schedule D to the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw review will ensure that Nanaimo's land use regulations are aligned with both city plan and with the provincial requirements. Finally, the review will take into account ease of use for readers to ensure that the bylaw is formatted and worded in a way that is accessible and easy to understand. And as we move through this review, staff do expect to return to GPC later in 2025 to seek direction on key decision points prior to bylaw introduction. There will also be opportunities for public engagement prior to bylaw adoption, again, pending direction on key decision points. Yeah, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horn. I'm not seeing any questions. Councillor Manley.
So this is, the process is going to be pre-zoning a lot of what's already in city plan, like for neighborhood, or so that somebody doesn't have to come back. They're going to put up an apartment building where there's single-family homes now. If it's zoned already for, in the city plan, it'll be pre-zoned. It's going to cut down on the amount of zoning we have meetings for.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. That is one of the possible outcomes that we will review is pre-zoning. Of course, a lot of pre-zoning did happen with the adoption of small-scale multi-unit housing regulations in June 2024, but we will be coming back and looking at some of our other land use designations. For example, urban centers and corridors is a big one, so we will be looking at opportunities potentially for pre-zoning in those areas as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further questions. Appreciate that. The next is the Woodgrove Area Plan Update. Ms. Brinkman again.
Yeah, thank you. So another important priority action project for this year is to prepare the Woodgrove Area Plan to guide future development in this urban center. This project is being led by Ms. Began and is very much a collaboration with the Parks, Rec and Culture, Transportation and Engineering departments. And 2 types of provincial funds are supporting this project. And I will turn it over to Ms. Began to provide an update.
Thank
Good
you, Ms.
evening,
Brinkman.
welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here today to provide an update on the Woodgrove Area Plan. The preparation of the plan has been identified as a council priority action. The scope of the project includes the lands within the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Center as identified on Schedule 2 of City Plan. The plan will build off the high-level vision the community already identified. A lot of hard work went into that. And what they envisioned is for the area to become a mixed-use center with an integrated mix of residential, commercial, recreation, and cultural components. What we planners like to call complete communities, what everybody else likes to call is a really great place to live and enjoy. To realize this vision, the area plan is intended to provide clear direction on meeting the 5 city plan goals, a continuation of the Nanaimo framework, and how best to coordinate the land use, transportation, infrastructure, and amenity needs for this area. The plan will not only provide land use and policy guidance, but inform transportation and infrastructure upgrades that may be triggered by future development. Both the Complete Communities grant that we received, as well as the provincial capacity funds, will support the preparation of this plan. The scope of the work for the project includes 4 phases, the first 3 of which are to complete the Complete Community grant requirements, the final one being the preparation of the actual area plan. A broad engagement strategy is proposed that includes residents, employees, businesses, and landowners of the scope area, as well as participants from the broader community. Additional information on the scope and strategy is available in the staff report. The project officially launched this month with a publicly facing project page, which I believe Nadia will bring up for us, and is scheduled to be completed by the first quarter of 2026. Thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Looking around, not seeing any questions. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next is F, Tenant Protections Project. Ms. Brinkman again.
Yeah. So the Tenant Protections Project is also one of Council's priority actions that the community planning team will complete this year. This project will focus on additional protections for tenants being evicted from manufactured home parks and rental buildings of 4 or more units that are being redeveloped. Manufactured home parks and older rental apartment buildings provide important affordable housing for the city, and tenants of these properties can be vulnerable to displacement. The Provincial Manufactured Home Park Tenancy Act and Residential Tenancy Act offers some protection for residents facing displacement. However, in April 2024, the province passed Bill 16, which improves the ability for municipalities to require tenant protections and allows municipalities to acquire more supports for tenants such as financial assistance, moving assistance, help to find a new place to live, and the right to rent or purchase another housing unit owned by that developer. And prior to Bill 16, a municipality was limited to only being able to require protections at the time of rezoning, application, or strata conversion. And Bill 16 allows municipalities to require protections at the time of development permit and building permit, which means more tenants that are being evicted due to redevelopment can be protected. So for this project, we can learn from several municipalities that have established rezoning or strata conversion policies in place. So a review of those policies in attachment A and B in the council agenda. And we can see from both Bill 16 and the policies of other municipalities that a potential tenant protection bylaw for Nanaimo could contain requirements such as a communication strategy to ensure a developer provides tenants with regular updates about the redevelopment process and timeline, a relocation plan and relocation assistance to ensure a developer helps a tenant find a new place to live, a right of first refusal to ensure a developer offers the tenant a housing unit in the proposed new development or elsewhere, and financial compensation, which could require that a developer provide rent payments for a prescribed period of time, as well as potentially paying for moving costs. This project is not intended to restrict appropriate new development in Nanaimo, so we will carefully consider the details of each of these components so that they are suited to the Nanaimo context and Nanaimo market. And to do this, we will engage with tenants and the development community, and we'll retain a consultant to assist us with the financial analysis. While the details of what to include in a tenant protection bylaw for Nanaimo is one matter for consideration, staff will also need to put our mind to how to implement and enforce that bylaw. We have learned from other municipalities that once a tenant protection policy is in place, it can be tricky to implement and can take significant staff resources. So to ensure success, we will need to create a detailed implementation guide that will provide clarity for tenants facing redevelopment, clarity for the developer, and clarity for city staff involved in implementing that bylaw. So that concludes my presentation. It's a high-level introduction to this project, and staff look forward to carrying out the next steps, and we will come back to Council or GPC with more options to consider later this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and our subdivision approving officer, Claire Negrin, is also here if you have questions about strata conversion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Negrin. Thank you for coming. Any questions?
Yes.
Councillor Perino, pardon me, Councillor Eastmere, Panley, and Perino.
Thank you. I just wondered, when we have the GPC, do we have a sense of community partners that we may be inviting to that to be part of the discussion around these potential options?
Through your worship to Councillor Eastmere. So yeah, we would definitely want to consult with residents of mobile home park communities, also tenants of rental apartment buildings. So we have access to be able to do that and gather that. Also, the property owners of those properties will be important to consult as well.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that this can be, when we do have a chance to discuss it at GPC, just to make sure that it's not just a discussion of council, that we do have some of these community partners and maybe even affordable housing providers to provide some insight, because they have probably tenants who've gone through this before. And I'm really happy that we're taking on this work. I recognize that it is challenging, and if we do get to a point where we have something in place, it'll take time and resources to be able to enforce it. But as a renter myself, you do live in a state of uncertainty, and change can be scary, and especially if you feel like you're going to be pushed out by new development. So I really appreciate us putting the work into this, because we do have a significant number of renters in Nanaimo, and we see a lot of redevelopment happening, and this will provide some assurances in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Actually, some of my questions were answered, so I'm just looking forward to getting this work done. I think it's really important to ensure that we provide protection for renters in the community, and we're dealing with a lot of large real estate investment trusts buying up property across Canada and communities and converting them and making places unaffordable. So it's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that when I read Tenant Protections Project, I actually did not put the manufactured homes in the same report in my mind as rental buildings, because generally with modular homes, they're generally owned, and they have, of course, pad rental, but it's very tough to move those. And talk about, that whole situation can be absolutely devastating for people. So I hope that we handle these separately, if that makes any sense, because I don't see them as the same. Rental buildings are one thing, and they are desperately needed, and as Councillor Eastmere said, what a terrible situation to have people in that, that time of influx of not knowing what. But I also see the manufactured homes community where people may own their home, but not the pad that it's sitting on. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, I can hear Councillor Armstrong that land is owned, but it's a different scenario. So I hope that we treat it. I'll just leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is, I think, an important project, and I very much look forward to hearing next steps at a GPC or whatever. But I have to make the comment that in my mind, much of what we're going to be talking about as in terms of a possible bylaw to protect tenants, in my opinion, should be provincial responsibility. And they're the ones that are forcing us to increase density. They're the ones that are largely responsible for the closure of some of these mobile home parks, for example. And here they're generously allowing us to pass a bylaw saying that we can figure out how we can offer some support to these people. Well, yes, I think we do need to be offering some support, but I think it's the province that should be stepping forward before we have to. Thanks.
Thank you. No further questions or comments? Thank you very much. The next is G.
I believe, sorry, Councillor Gesselbrock, I think had a comment.
Pardon me, Councillor Gesselbrock, sorry. Keep forgetting about you.
No, is the motion on the floor? Sorry.
No, it's just a report.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think this is important work, and I appreciate staff bringing it forward, and I look forward to seeing it progress.
Thank you. The next is G, 933 Park Avenue Concept Plan. Ms. Brinkman, once again, please.
Thank you. So we're pleased to present the park plan this evening for the city-owned property at 933 Park Avenue. We completed 2 phases of successful engagement with the community to create this concept plan, and we recommend that council endorse the plan so that staff and the community can move forward with implementing the vision for the park. And I will turn it over to Acting Manager of Park Operations, Ms. McDonald, who has a short presentation to share.
Ms. McDonald, good evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As Ms. Brinkman alluded to, this is a culmination of a number of years of work, and we present to you today really what we're hoping is a guiding vision for the site at 933 Park Avenue, which of course is colloquially known as the 5-acre farm in Harewood. And this is really a phased vision. It's something that we see being developed over time to open it up to the public for future enjoyment. So in a nutshell, the vision for the park is really to open the site, which is currently quite closed off by hedgerows and a lack of connectivity, with a main trail which links Park Avenue to 2 adjacent streets, Alley's Place and Boardwalk Avenue. And a loop would lead visitors to the site throughout a diverse park, including urban agricultural areas, a wetland, natural assets, as well as some recreational space. In the middle of the site is a gathering area with potential interpretive information, some play features, and also other amenities. And through the Park Avenue side, the eastern side of the park is 2 acres plus of productive landscape, including urban agriculture. Something that's been added to this version of the plan is an implementation section, and it outlines a number of actions that over the coming years would be brought to council through capital budgeting processes. Staff have indicated what could be brought in the short term, the immediate actions, some that might be ongoing, and also future actions. And they include items that would also would be reviewed in future years by you, but also could be covered in operating budgets, some programming, and it's something that staff would be working on achieving over the next up to 10 years. Don't know. And the last slide, I'm not sure if I can get, there we go, thank you. Just in short is that council would recommend endorsing the concept plan for 933 Park Avenue as a long-term vision for the site.
Thank you very much. For what it's worth, I don't know what the rest of council have to say, but I'm very pleased with the concept. I think it represents a pretty marvelous compromise, given all the competing interests that folks have had in that particular property. Unfortunately, it's like everything where everybody wants a piece of the action. It's not hard to it's very hard to satisfy people. So well done. Thank you, Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much for bringing this forward. I really like the plan. One of the things that I thought about, after the open house, is beside that house, there's a really nice natural hill there, and at the bottom of the hill, you could set up a cultural space. Like, there's in the plan it talks about a potential outdoor classroom area, and that seems like a very natural area to do that. That could actually be a cultural space. You look at in Bowen Park, that little amphitheater that's right by the duck ponds. That is a very, very well-used space. You need to book that in advance if you want to do something in the summertime. And it'd be nice to see more little kind of cultural venues like that outdoors in our park spaces, and that seems like a real natural fit. One of the other things I was just going to ask about is working with service clubs, because often service clubs like to get involved in our parks, and we see what's happened down in Maffeo Sutton Park and the Rotary Bowl and the Rotary Fields, and so I'm just wondering if that's a consideration, and I hope that it is, because often our service clubs really get excited about these kind of things. So,
through the chair to Councillor Manley, most definitely we would be looking at assembling partners who would work with us on future capital initiatives, and that Center Hill area is identified as a gathering area. It's undefined as to what that is, but we would be very happy to work with partners on achieving programmatic elements like that, as well as any other amenities on the site. This is definitely something that we know is loved by a number of partners, and it certainly will help to provide impotence to the capital initiatives if there are partners available to work with. So we would love service clubs to come forward, or other growing partners, and definitely a range of partnerships for success.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a great amenity for the surrounding neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions. Would someone care to move the recommended motion? Councillor Perino, seconded. Councillor Thorpe, or pardon me, Armstrong. How could I confuse? Any discussion?
Just for that, I'm going to speak.
Councillor Thorpe, please do.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to recollect that when this came to council December of 2023, I think I was by myself in not supporting the concept plan. And it was simply because I felt there was room for a compromise to include a small amount of affordable housing. And I haven't changed my view on that. And I think because of the constraints of this piece of property, that could have been incorporated quite nicely into the design. However, I was soundly outvoted, and I must say I like the concept that has been brought to us today, so I'm willing to support it. Thank you.
Ms. McDonald, you've beaten the Campbells, so to speak. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through you. Do we have the financial and staff resources will be required to implement the plan, as well as take care of the site day by day? Do we have any idea of the costs?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Perino, operating costs for maintenance, is that what you're asking, or both?
Both.
Both.
Could be, yes.
So each project will be costed in the future and brought forward in the capital plans.
Okay.
The operating costs will increase as more amenities are brought there. So right now, staff do very little at the site. We help with one of the growers that's there with water, but really that's it. As we open up a trail, for instance, and that's one of the first actions really to open the site to the public, there'll be a lot more eyes on the site, there'll be more use, and operating costs will increase. Once we bring more infrastructure such as water and have other growers working there, there'll be more costs. So they will grow as the park grows.
Okay, so you'll bring those cost estimates for us as you keep going forward with this, right?
The capital costs will come for your discussion through the regular capital planning processes. The operating costs would come as increases in our operating budget also for consideration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock, did you have your hand?
Yeah, just thank you for the concept plan. Looks great. I'm really looking forward to seeing those pathways in to improve the connectivity. So thank you for presenting it.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions or debate, all those in favor? Any opposed? None? Thank you very much. The next is H, Building Communities Through Arts and Heritage Community Anniversaries Program. Ms. Breen? Get poor Ms. Brinkman out of the chair. Good evening, Ms. Sign.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have an information report for you this evening. Its purpose is to update Council that the city received the Building Communities Through Arts and Heritage Community Anniversaries Program grant for the Luminous Past Nanaimo's 150 and Beyond event. The Community Anniversaries Program is a funding stream through the Building Communities Through Canadian Heritage's Arts and Heritage Program. And the application deadline was April 30th, 2024. The city requested $200,000 in funding and was notified in late November 2024 that we had been granted $46,100. Ms. Sign and I are here this evening and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. What's the phrase? Cut your sail to meet your cloth, or trim your cloth to meet your sail? I can never remember how it goes. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Last presentation of the night. Well done. Thank you for staying. 13, bylaws, financial plan bylaw 2024, number 7389. Councillor Perino.
Motion that the financial plan bylaw 2024, number 7389, to confirm and adopt the 2025 to the 2029 financial plan be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next item is zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2024, number 4500.233. I have a relative, as I've announced previously, that operates an Airbnb.
Yes. I also have an Airbnb suite in my home.
So Councillor Perino and I are going to absent ourselves, and Councillor Hemmons will let you chair this portion, please.
Councillor Manley, would you like to read the bylaw in Councillor Perino's absence? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do that part, right?
Yeah. Okay. I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2024 number 4500.233, a bylaw to amend the short-term rental regulations, be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? I know Councillor Armstrong opposed.
Thank you to Councillor Hemmons for her efficiency. The next is C, fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024, number 7336.13.
Motion that fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024, number 7336.13, a bylaw to add fees and charges for the finance department be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have two items of correspondence. The first is the amyotrophic, I think that's amyotrophic, late lateral sclerosis society British Columbia request for letter of support, Reproject Hope. Unless there is some worry about this, Councillor Perino, no, Councillor Manley's moving it. You can jump in and do it. Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And the second is the World Leisure Center of Excellence at Van Cortlandt University. Request for letter of support, World Leisure Congress 2028.
So moved.
So moved. Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have no notices of motion. We have no other business. And question period, Ms. Gurry. Mr. Annesley. The false alarm regulation bylaw?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what would constitute a false alarm? Like, are we talking about a stray cat triggering an alarm over and over again? Are we talking about a smashed window? Like, do you know what I mean? You are raising the fine substantially, so I just want to know, for the business community, what would constitute a false alarm?
After a series, the fine gets to be substantial. Councillor Armstrong.
That, it's when you may leave your door open and the alarm goes off, so the police have to attend, and you haven't left a number for somebody else to come check it. Like most people that have monitored companies, they will send a runner to check it, and the police aren't called unless they find there's something wrong. But there's like one of my neighbors, his alarm goes off 4 or 5 times a day because he forgets to shut the door.
Okay.
So then the police have to respond, or it's when you know it's caused by the owner, or they forget to do something. So
Okay, so
a stray cat wouldn't do that.
So it's not something where like
Soon as there's a
someone's
smashed
tried to
window-
break in and they've given
Well,
out.
smashed window's not a false alarm, right? It's a real alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a false alarm is usually it's human caused, and it's usually by the owners.
Okay.
Or sometimes, and I don't think this would apply, it would be when the power goes off, alarms will always go off. And and again, if police have to keep responding, but normally they don't to those situations because they know it's caused by that, but that's.
Okay, so it's just like I said, my one example of a
Yeah.
You have a cat and you're a stray cat and you're not dealing with it. It's just constantly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's constant repetitive alarms to the same people, and then normally it's human caused. Like
Okay,
for
and
me,
it
I
just-
set mine off 3 times last week because I forgot to shut the garage door proper.
And so just to follow up on, because I think the number was 340 that in the last year, I think, and one was specifically 40. Is there specific locations where this is happening more than other locations?
They would be tracked by the RCMP, and then that information would be turned over to bylaws.
Okay, so you would know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's tracked, because every code, there's a code for that on the RCMP scoring system, so it would come up as false alarm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I was going to say, it's not the 4-legged creatures that the problem, it's the 2-legged ones.
Well, I set mine off 3 times last week.
Motion to adjourn. Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you to staff. It's been a long evening. Much appreciated. But with the